Greetings from Tokyo, my friends. This is Daisuke, and I am very excited. Today is January 25th, 2019, and as some of you may or may not know, today was the day that the film Suspiria, directed by Luca Guadagnino, opened in Tokyo. So I went to see the film Suspiria with a dear friend of mine, and we both went to the theater in Shinjuku in Tokyo. And I saw the film, and it's now been a couple hours since the film ended. So I just wanted to let you know how I felt about the film. And I'll just start very briefly with some non-spoiler reactions. I am a great admirer of the original film directed by Dario Argento and written by Dario Argento and Daria Nicolodi, and starring Jessica Harper and Stefania Cassini. I am a great admirer of that film, and I believe, and I still believe, that the film Suspiria, directed by Dario Argento, is one that should be regarded as being one of the great films of the second half of the 20th century. You know, the BFI Sight and Sound list, well, I think that Suspiria really should be on that list, you know, in the top 200 greatest films ever made. I really believe that. It is so fundamentally important to me in my life, that film, and I've had the distinct honor and privilege of talking about Argento's films, and in particular Suspiria, in past videos on this YouTube channel. So if you're interested, please have a look at those if you have a free moment. So this is all to say that I'm a big fan of Argento's Suspiria. And when time came for the film to be announced, that it was going into production, I must admit that I was very much skeptical. And I was very nervous about this kind of situation, because it's taking what is a classic film, not only of the horror genre but of cinema in general. It's taking this classic film and essentially remaking it. And slowly but surely some details emerged, that you had people like Luca Guadagnino being involved, and the script being written by David Kojanik being involved, and you had people like Tilda Swinton coming in, and later Dakota Johnson. So, and more people started to come in, and Chloe Grace Moretz, for instance. And I remember reading about that very cursorily when I first heard about it, and I wasn't very impressed. I thought this is going to be a huge this has the potential for being something very terrible, because I loved the Dario Argento films so. And but gradually I started to get more information, and I wasn't completely convinced until I saw the first trailer, the first teaser trailer, and I saw the images matched with the grand haunting music by Tom York. And when I saw the first teaser trailer for the first time, I was stunned and I was blown away. And then when I saw the second trailer, that sealed the deal for me. And so I was looking forward to this film with great anticipation. And so here we are. And I must say that I was waiting for this film, and the film opened, I think, in North America, I think in around Halloween in 2018, so late October, early November, something like that. And that was the beginning of November, so November, December, and now it's the end of January. So I had to wait essentially 3 months before I could watch the film Suspiria, the new film Suspiria by Luca Guadagnino, starring Tilda Swinton and Dakota Johnson and Mia Goth. And now I'm sitting here having watched Suspiria in the theater. And I must say that the film is amazing. It is absolutely amazing. I am so stunned right now, and I'm not quite sure how best to articulate it, except to say that I found the film to be utterly captivating from beginning to end. And to be perfectly frank, I wasn't quite sure going into the film. I wasn't quite sure how I would react to it, because I knew a lot of people that whose opinions I really trust, film critics, professional film critics, and close friends of mine. A lot of people that whose taste I really trusted, told me, or they wrote about it and said that they didn't like the film. For whatever reason. It wasn't a complete failure, but it wasn't a success either. It was mixed to slightly negative. Not completely negative, but mixed to slightly negative. And so I was really anticipating the possibility of not liking this film. And I was expecting, actually, to be, maybe it was okay, maybe it would be just good but forgettable, something like that. So I really wasn't expecting to like it so much. I was still hoping for the best, of course, and as I said, I had to wait 3 months until it would open here in Tokyo, and all throughout that 3 months, you better believe that I was listening to the soundtrack on my iPhone over and over and over again. I was hypnotized by that. But still, I really had to prepare for the possibility, the real possibility that the film might not work for me as a viewing experience. Well, I'm very happy to say that this film really worked for me. And I am actually quite surprised how much it worked for me. And it really moved me in a way that I'm still trying to figure out in my mind and in my heart. But with all that inner working computation that I still have to go through, just as a general feeling, I thought it was spectacular. I thought Suspiria, Luca Guadagnino's Suspiria, is spectacular. And it's even more spectacular for the point that it's so remarkable in that it is so good. It is really, really good. It is excellent. It is so excellent on the one hand, and yet it doesn't diminish or take away from my love of the first film or the original film. I don't know if that makes any sense, but generally, the relationship between an original film and the remake of that film tends to be a pretty combative one or confrontational one, or they don't seem to be they don't seem to be able to cohabitate the same space. And what do I mean by that? I mean, in other words, usually when you have an original and a remake, usually the relationship between the two films is such that people tend to say, I prefer the original over the remake, or there is the occasional situation, maybe like, I know it's not really an original, but just for the sake of this discussion, The Thing. Well, you had the early version of The Thing, and then you have the John Carpenter version of The Thing, which is, in my mind, it transcends everything that came before. It's exponentially far and above what the earlier film had been, and I'm not even going to talk about what came after that. But this is all to say that usually the relationship between the original and the remake tends to be one where you either have to take one over the other. And I completely buy that. I completely understand why that is. Okay. But for Suspiria, at least after I've watched it now, it's very interesting because I feel like can love this new film and still love the original film. In other words, my love for one doesn't necessarily negate my love for the other. So this is a remarkable thing, and this is something that has surprised me the most about watching this film. It's the way in which these two films can seem to coexist. And because of the ability of both films to coexist, at least in my mind, therefore I can look at this new film and just see it for what it is. And it is a frightening film, but it is not just a film about fright and horror. It is a film about the sort of relationships between women. It is a film about the idea of memory and loss, and how memory figures into the concept and notion and real horrible feeling of loss. And it's that kind of loss where you don't know exactly what happened, right? So things are unclear, and this idea that when things are unclear, that creates this idea of insatiable longing, which itself can be quite frightening and debilitating, perhaps. This is all set, of course, in the context of late 1970s Berlin, Germany, but there is so much going on here. There's so much political upheaval, not only in contemporary Germany at the time, but also in Germany in the context of the post-war Germany, a divided Germany and a divided Berlin. And also you have the idea of a society that's trying to reconcile itself with the past. So you have all these things going on, and I find that to be quite engaging and engrossing. Not to mention the fact that it is a very scary film. So yes, so Suspiria, Luca Guadagnino's Suspiria, is one film that I was hoping that I would like going in, and I'm glad I did. But I'm very surprised actually as to how much I really liked it. Now I'm trying to be as honest as I can here. I'm trying to be sure that my feelings of the film are not at all influenced by, for instance, my sort of anticipation for the film. I had to wait 3 months, so perhaps that might have something to do with me wanting to like the film. I hope that that's not the case. I hope that I'm really liking it on the merits, and I think I am. But I will, time will tell if this feeling holds. But for right now, I can say that Suspiria 2018, Luca Guadagnino, is a genuinely engaging film. Excellent film. Okay, so let me now stop here and I will now talk about specific details of the film. And so if you haven't seen Suspiria, the Luca Guadagnino version of Suspiria, please stop this video now and watch the film, and then come back to this video anytime you have finished watching it. I believe the film is it's going to be released, or maybe it's already going to be released, or it already has been released, the end of this month, January 2019. And I'm sure you'll be able to see it on Amazon Prime or whatever, or some other streaming. So please try to catch it if you haven't seen it. And if you're not into horror, perhaps this might not necessarily be for you, because there are some very, very intense scenes. So please, if you're not into horror, I would actually suggest you don't see the film, because it can be quite an unpleasant experience. But for those of you who are into horror, I would really much like to hear what you have to think about this very interesting film, Suspiria. Also, I should say that I will probably be talking about certain details regarding the original film Suspiria as well. So if you haven't seen the original film, Suspiria, Dario Argento, I suggest that you don't watch this video. That I suggest that you watch the original Suspiria and the Luca Guadagnino Suspiria, and then come back to this video, and we can talk about both versions going forward. So again, please watch the original version, and also please watch this version before going on with this video. Please take your time. I will still be here after you're done, and I'd love to talk to you about it. Okay, so you've seen the film, so I'm going to talk about specifics of this film. And where to begin? Where to begin? So many details. As I said, this is a film that one can love, and also it won't negate or tarnish or diminish your love for the film Suspiria, directed by Dario Argento. At least I hope it doesn't. It doesn't for me. I think, to borrow a line from Joseph Klemperer in the film Suspiria, love and manipulation, can make for strange bedfellows. So who knows? There might be something there. But I really believe that these two films can coexist, and I think they can, and they do. And this is to say that there are enough similarities between the new film and the original film. There are so many similarities, but at the same time, this film forges its own path in a way that is very exciting. Some of the similarities with the earlier Argento work is, for instance, you've got the whole idea of the witch's coven, and the idea that this is the dance school, and the dance school is actually a witch's coven. And then you have the characters of Susie Bannion and Sarah and Madame Blanc and Miss Tanner and all that. But and then you have within that the similarities. Miss Tanner is very. She is sort of the assistant to Madame Blanc, and remember Miss Tanner in the earlier film. She was the one who had the really off count. She couldn't count. The music and her counting was really offbeat. Whereas here, Miss Tanner has a really sharp and precise counting, and so I really like that. And the character of Sarah, I love the way they use Sarah here. The character of Sarah. There's a scene in the film here when she's listening to the walls and listening to the footsteps. And this recalls, of course, that great moment in Suspiria, the original, where Sarah and Susie, Stefania Cassini and Jessica Harper, respectively, Jessica Harper's character is pretty much sedated at that point, but Stefania Cassini's Sarah is trying to listen to the footsteps as the witches or the teachers are walking down the corridors. And so those two scenes seem to be very much connected, I think. And also the way that Sarah is used in this film. Remember, she suffers from a really nasty broken leg, if you recall. It's a really gruesome scene. And then she becomes a kind of like a zombie or something. And it's not quite clear what happens to her, but she becomes possessed or something. And that reminds me, of course, of how Sarah in the original, the Argento work, was treated. Because Sarah, as you know, was wandering the halls and the corridors alone, and then she fell into that pit of barbed wire, and then something very nasty happened to her with a razor, I think. And then she got her body was laid out, and then there were pins stuck through her eyes. And then at the precise moment when Susie Bannion entered the room of Helena Marcos at the end there, you had the whole thing with Sarah, zombie Sarah, coming back to life and doing the whole right. It was amazing, an amazing thing. And so the you have these two things going on here, and I thought that was an amazing thing, absolutely amazing. And so, gosh, but at the same time, there are so many differences. There are so many differences here that are truly remarkable. And so, where do I even begin? Let's start with Tilda Swinton. Her performances here are remarkable. And I would say that her Madame Blanc is a wonderful creation, a wonderful character creation. I was expecting her Madame Blanc to be much more of a severe character than she ended up being. Her Madame Blanc here is a really mother figure, and it's kind of ironic because she's kind of the motherly figure to Susie Bannion, and the ultimate reveal is that Susie Bannion is actually the ultimate mother. She's Mother Superiorum, so it's interesting how the tables get turned at the end there. But throughout most of the film, of course, Tilda Swinton's Madame Blanc is sort of like a mother figure to Susie Bannion, which is an amazing, amazing thing. And I love how Tilda Swinton closes curtains. She has this real, just a lovely ballet type of walk about her. It's a really lovely walk. You know, her walk and the way she moves in this picture reminds me so much of Toshiro Mifune's walk in Yojimbo, you know, the Akira Kurosawa film. Toshiro Mifune's walk is so graceful and ballet-like. And I was so reminded of Tilda Swinton's walk reminded me so much of Toshiro Mifune's body language, because she's so still and rigid and smooth as she walks, and the way she uses her hands. And remember that scene when she's talking to to Susie in her room, and Susie is looking out that way, and Tilda Swinton does that thing with her hand along the back of behind her head. Lovely gesture. And when Madame Blanc is talking about teaching the dance moves of Volk, the way she's so graceful in her movements is lovely. And I love the way how she smokes, and you can hear the each sucking of breath. You can hear the little as she inhales and then blows out the smoke. Remarkable. And had it ended there, I think it would have been remarkable and truly noteworthy. But of course, it doesn't end there. She apparently also plays the grotesque, deformed Helena Marcos, which is a ghastly creation, a one-of-a-kind thing. I wasn't quite expecting that kind of grossness, but there you go. And then that appears for a little bit. But the other great performance from Tilda Swinton here is, of course, Lutz Ebersdorf playing Klemper, Herr Doktor. And so this is the great performance, I think. I knew going in that Tilda Swinton was playing this character, and you could kind of tell. You could kind of tell from the first trailer that something was up, and you could tell that it was probably Tilda Swinton in some kind of makeup, but you weren't sure, or at least I wasn't sure, how that would play out. Was it because Madame Blanc was actually the Klemperer in disguise, and that would be the huge reveal, and that would be sort of another horror twist to the tale? That's where I thought it was going to go. But to my surprise, no. Dr. Klemperer was, in fact, his own character. And Madame Blanc was her own character. And Helena Marcos was her own character. So they were all distinct characters. And it just so happened that Tilda Swinton played all three. So I was just, that made me even happier that the film made that such a bold and, in the end, a brilliant, genius choice of casting Tilda Swinton in the role of Klemperer. And her performance as Klemperer was remarkable. The walk and the hunched back and the way that she turns the pages when she's reading Patricia Hingle's diary, and the way that she smokes her pipe, and the way that he walks, and he's walking to the old house, and just those wonderful things. Klemperer walks, and you've got that lovely music synth score over that. One of the few times you've got synth in the score there, and just the gestures and the nuances, and you contrast that tired, withered walk with the grace and smoothness of Madame Blanc, and my goodness, the juxtaposition of these two characters is amazing. The kinds of mental gymnastics and somersaults that Tilda Swinton as the actor must have had to do to prepare for those two roles is just, I can't even begin to conceive of the kind of preparation that she must have had to have done to get ready for those roles, because it is a true masterwork of acting prowess. And I must say also that I am so impressed with Mia Goth. I thought her Sarah was a remarkable performance. She is so down to earth and kind and vulnerable, and she was angry when she needed to be. You remember that one lovely scene when she and Klemperer are first talking in that little cafe, and she's a little bit offended almost that Klemperer is coming in here and telling her that the teachers at the dance academy are all witches. So she was actually offended, but it was only after her own investigation into the school that she ended up becoming more convinced of what Klemperer was saying, of course. But Mia Goth's performance here is, I'm very surprised, and to be perfectly honest, I wasn't really Mia Goth's, I wasn't really familiar with Mia Goth's previous work, but here I found her to be simply stunning. Stunning. And the moment when she's screaming out in pain after that terrible thing happens to her and her leg, every scream of hers just ripped me, just ripped at my heart, I was screaming along with her, inside anyway. And I could feel her agony, and it was a tragic thing that happened to her. My goodness, Mia Goth, what a great performance. And Dakota Johnson, I have to pay more attention to Dakota Johnson's work now, because she does something here that is remarkable. I think her role here is one of the most difficult roles I think any actor has had to play, because she has to be kind of passive and almost seemingly ineffectual at the beginning of the film, and she has to seem a bit naive, and she has to be a good dancer, and she has to seem naive yet confident, perhaps even overly confident or cocky. But it's all because there is this huge reveal at the end of the film, of course, in Act 6, Suspiriorum. Who is Mother Suspiriorum? Yeah, it's not Helena Marcos. It is Susie Bannion. Wow. Mind blown. My mind was blown. And now that I think about it, I thought, I really should have guessed it from the beginning, because do you remember the second trailer? Do you remember the second trailer? If you don't remember, go back after this and watch the second trailer. If you remember, there was a bit in the second trailer when you hear Klemperer's voice when he's talking about the three mothers, and he says, three mothers, Mother Tenebrarum, Mother Lacrimarum, and Mother Suspiriorum. Darkness, tears, and sighs. You remember that lovely line? Well, when he says that, Mother Tenebrarum and Mother Lacrimarum, and then he says, Mother Suspiriorum. When he says that line, the trailer cuts to a shot of Susie standing in the dance hall with Madame Blanc and the others. And it was very curious that the trailer cut to Susie. And now I realize that when the trailer cuts to Susie and Klemperer is heard saying Mother Suspiriorum, that I think was a subliminal message or a clue saying the trailer was essentially giving it away. Not directly, of course, but in a very clever way, I thought. It was essentially saying that Mother Suspiriorum was Susie Bannion. I should have seen it. Now that I think about it, it was right there all along. But oh well. I guess I'm not clever enough to figure it out. But still, it was quite a fantastic reveal. And the way that she opens her chest to reveal it's like it's like a bloody womb, and she's opening herself up. In a way, it's this haunting image, and it says so much about this idea of longing and sadness and sexuality. And all of it's coming together in this weird, gigantic red filtered mess. And I loved every moment of it. And what was great about Dakota Johnson at this moment was she made Mother Suspiriorum such a sympathetic figure. Mother Suspiriorum in Dakota Johnson's hands becomes a figure of compassion. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. What a genius move to turn the character like this. And this is made even more explicit during that final scene between her and Klemperer. That lovely scene, if you recall, when she's sitting on Klemperer's bed, talking to Klemperer about the truth about Klemperer's wife, Anka, and how Anka ended up tragically dying in the Theresienstadt camp. It was very sad, but the idea was that she died in a very terrible way, but she died, November 11th, 1943, when they were taking a census of all the prisoners in the Theresienstadt camp. The idea was that as she died, her thoughts were of Joseph Klemperer. And so, and as Susie Bannion is revealing this, you see her, and behind her is the window, and the sun is gradually coming up, and it's becoming dawn, and it's light outside. It's a lovely moment, and Tilda Swinton's Klemperer is just sitting there in the bed, shaking and sobbing, and just being so moved. That is wow. Who would have thought a scene like that would have happened between Tilda Swinton in makeup as Herr Dr. Klemperer and Dakota Johnson as Mater Suspiriorum? Boggles the mind, but in a fantastic way. Oh my goodness! This is a great film, and my gosh, the violent scenes here are just. I was sitting in my chair, and there were armrests there, and I was grabbing both armrests, and I was going like this during the scenes. And there were quite a number of scenes that were very effective. There's the one scene involving the dancer who was really good at her jumps, and then something happened to her, and the implication being that the witches took the power of her jumps and then moved it to Susie. So therefore, you remember that scene, and that dancer suddenly was convulsing and very violently on the floor and foaming at the mouth almost. That was a really frightening scene. And also the scene involving Sarah, and she was in her dress, and she finds Patricia Hingle, and she's very deformed, and the body of Olga, I think. And then that thing happens with her leg. Oh, scary as heck. And of course, Olga, the famous scene, it's now famous, Olga's dance in that mirror room. And speaking of the mirrored room, my goodness, how did the cameraman film in that room and not show the reflection of the camera? I will never be able to figure that out. They must have computer graphicked something out of it, but amazing. And remember, this is not Olga's destruction scene, but there is another scene where Madame Blanc and Susie are in that room, and the camera moves around the room. And I was amazed by that. How could that happen? That is amazing. It reminded me of the scene in Suspiria where Susie is meeting with Frank Mandel, who's here on convention. And Frank Mandel calls his colleague Milius. And so Milius and Jessica Harper, Susie Bannion are sitting down outside. They're talking. And the camera zooms into the reflection of the two characters as they're talking. It zooms into their reflection as it's reflected off of the glass of the large building that outside of which those two characters are. And, of course, it zooms in and you can't see the camera, but it zooms into the reflection, so it really doesn't make sense that you can't see the camera. There's a trick there, and I know how it's done. I don't want to spoil it here, but the point is that the camera is zooming into mirrors. And the same thing is true for this new film here, Suspiria. The camera is seemingly doing this wonderful thing with this mirrored room, and you can't see the camera reflected. Amazing. I don't know how that was possible. But what was I saying? Yes, Olga's scene here. This has to go down as being one of the great scenes in contemporary cinema for me. So creative and so simple at the same time, and just I think a lot has to do with the actress playing Olga, just her body contortions and the sounds that are used and the bone crunching. Everything is perfect, and the cutting makes it even more intense. The editing makes it more intense. One of the great scenes. And I was just going like this in the theater when that scene came up. Oh yeah, so many great scenes, and of course the ending. My goodness, that ending was pretty out there, and a lot of just don't ever vote for Marcos. That's all I have to say, because if you do, boom. Everything's just going to go splat, right? So just great stuff. And, oh gosh, what was I going to say? Oh, yes, and the dancing here in this film is so primal and intense, incredibly sexual, erotic. I'm not sure if erotic is the right word. I think some of it's quite erotic, but most of it's very, it's like animal-like in its sexual expressiveness, and amazing. Just the way that this intensity builds just through the act of the dance rehearsals, and of course the main performance of Volk. I thought that was incredible. Just a wonderful means by which suspense and intensity can be conveyed in a film like this. I never really thought about it before, but just a grand presentation. Then, of course, there's the music. Now, the music choice here is, when I first heard the music, I was actually quite startled by its quietness. But I think it works so well, and the opening, well, the main theme of Suspiriorum is right now. I can't get it out of my head, and it's like Patricia Hingle at the beginning of the film. She can't get that song out of her head as she's talking to Klemper in the office there. I can't get Suspiriorum. I can't get that lovely piano out of my head, and Volk, that very famous theme now, and Volk, it's got those bum bum sounds, and I always thought that was a great counter to Hans Zimmer's kind of that music, the bang or something, or not. It's not Hans Zimmer, but it's that music that's used for the trailer for the film Inception. I always thought that the Suspiria soundtrack and Volk, I thought that did it one better with the bang sound, and it was quite effective. I love that song. And there's also the great use of the song Unmade. As Mother Suspiriorum is basically claiming the school and just basically revealing herself to the world, well, not to the world, but to the school. What is sung there by Tom York? There is nothing up my sleeve. Right? So fitting, so poignant, as Susie is revealing herself. There is really nothing up her sleeve. She is who she is at that moment. And in fact, that is a great emphatic point that is a repeat of a point that was made earlier in the film when Susie is having a nightmare and she screams out loud. What does she say? She says, "I know who I am." And indeed, at that moment, she knows who she is, and the song Unmade emphasizes that point. There is nothing up my sleeve. Such a poignant, poetic moment in the film. I'm amazed at how moved I am by that moment. I really should be horrified, perhaps, by that moment, but I'm so moved. She's opening herself up. It's like she's opening her. It's of course, it looks like. Female genitalia, the way she's exposing herself like that. But it's also the symbolic thing of exposing your heart to someone. And if you recall, she's crying at that moment too. And I love that moment too because it reminds me so much of that moment in the original Suspiria when Pat Hingle is killed. And remember, you get the scene when she's being stabbed, and you get the close-up of the heart because her chest has been basically cut out. I feel like that's a lovely parallel with this scene here. And now it's Susie's chest that is exposed and laid bare. Oh, my goodness, this is, for me, what a beautiful moment that is. Yes, what a beautiful moment. So, I suppose I could keep on going, but let me just stop there and say let me just, one more thing, I'm sorry. One more thing and I'm done. I love the inclusion here of Jessica Harper. It's so symbolic to have Jessica Harper here as the wife, the long-lost wife, Anka, to Tilda Swinton's Klemper, because, it's such a lovely story that ends so tragically. And I love the moment when they're embracing and they're walking, and suddenly they're in front of the school, and Klemper realizes that they're in front of the school, and he turns around and he realizes that she's no longer there. So tragic, and just a lovely moment. And the fact that you had Jessica Harper playing the long-lost wife was so symbolic, because it was almost like Klemperer was chasing something that was forever to be elusive. And it's almost like this film. This film was chasing something in the original Suspiria that, of course, starred Jessica Harper. So it's almost just like the filmmakers today, or this film, were trying to chase something that was elusive. Jessica Harper's Anka was elusive in the same way. And I think that's so symbolic, because I think what the filmmakers ended up deciding was, why try to chase something that is elusive? And they came up with the answer. You shouldn't do that. Let's do it in our own way. And that's what they did here with Suspiria. There are some great moments, of course, and there are some quirky moments. I should mention here, of course, that there's the moment with the two detectives when they go to the academy, and the witches have them under their spell, and they're poking at their genitals. Well, this is Japan, and so in Japan, unfortunately, that scene was the quote-unquote offending area was blurred out, so you couldn't really make out anything except they're poking at a little bit of a blurry spot there. But I guess it's a very minor thing, I suppose. Yes. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the cast. The cast is just outstanding. You have these legends of European cinema and art house cinema and world cinema. Renee Soutedig is in here. Amazing. Angela Winkler is in here. Amazing. Her Miss Tanner is a great moment. Such a lovely surprise. Ingrid Cobbin is in here. Amazing. Who'd have thought that these actors of this caliber would come together and be in this film? And they're all in that final act, Suspiriorum, and they're all doing it. The whole mess and the blood, they're all in it. It's amazing. Okay. And then there's the lovely scene, well, not lovely, it's a terrible scene really, but with one of the people killing herself in the kitchen there. And am I mistaken, but are those the same exact glasses, perhaps? I look carefully, and they look the exact same as the glasses that I'm wearing. And if that's the case, I'm very thrilled by that. I'm glad that I can associate these glasses not only with the great George Romero, but also with the great Suspiria 2018. Oh man! If you have seen the film, or if you're going to see the film, check out those glasses and see if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so let's see, what else can I say about this film? There are some other great moments that I should say recall the earlier film, the original film. In the original film, there's that rather corpulent witch who was with the little boy, and she's shining that little diamond thing, and it flashes and it causes Susie to get sick. Earlier on in that film. Well, here there's a witch that is similar looking, kind of heavy set, and there's a scene in particular when she's sitting down during the performance of Volk, and I could swear that her pose makes her look almost exactly like the witch as in the original Dario Argento film, who's polishing that little diamond thing. I could swear the poses were almost exactly the same. Incredible sort of those subliminal connections that are being made. Luca Guadagnino does a masterful job here in terms of creating such tension and suspense with, almost out of thin air. And so he should be commended for his work. This is one of the great films, and I can't wait to watch it again. Can't wait to watch this film again. Okay, my friends, let me end it there. And so tell me, what did you think of the film Suspiria? Please leave your thoughts and comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and maybe we can get another discussion going. Okay, so let me end it there. It's getting rather late, so I should be getting to bed. So until we meet again, my dear friends, please be happy and healthy and well. And please keep watching a lot of great, great films. So until then, my friends.